Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Q. Welcome to my channel. In this video, we'll discuss game theory. Game theory is very useful for managing firms. We will learn how to apply normal form and extensive form representations of games to formulate decisions in strategic environments that including pricing, advertising, coordination, bargaining, innovation, product quality, monitoring employees, and entry. We'll also figure out the different strategies in various games. Further, we'll see if firms behave differently when they are in a repeated game as opposed to one-shot game. Every time I hear the term game theory, I think of two things. The first one is, in the TV show Friends, Rachel and Phoebe found out about Monica and Chandler and tried to get them to admit that they are together, but Monica and Chandler didn't want to. The part of they don't know that we know, they know, we know on season 5, episode 14. The link can be found below. The second thing I think of when I hear game theory is prisoner's dilemma. This dilemma was originally framed by Meryl Flood and Melvin Drescher in 1950. Albert Tucker later formalized the game by structuring the rewards in terms of prison sentences and named it the prisoner's dilemma. The description is two members of criminal gang are arrested and imprisoned. Each prisoner is in solitary confinement with no means of speaking to or exchanging messages with the other. The police do not have enough evidence to convict them of the principal charge. They plan to sentence both to a year in prison on a lesser charge. Simultaneously, the police officer offers each prisoner a deal. If the prisoner testifies against his partner, he will go free while the partner will get 3 years in prison on the main charge. If both prisoners testify against each other, both will be sentenced to 2 years in jail. Let's summarize the payoffs for each decision pair they choose. Prisoner A can choose to be silent or to testify. The same is true to prisoner B. B can be silent, B can testify. Then each parenthesis represents the years of a sentence, each of them for the corresponding choice pair. Conventionally, the first number refers to the left-hand side player. Here it is prisoner A's outcome or payoff. So this will represent 1 year of jail sentence to A. This represents 0 for A, 3 years for A, 2 years for A. The second number in the parentheses refers to the top player. Here it is prisoner B's outcome or payoff. So 1 year for B, 3 years for B, 0 year for B, 2 years for B. It does not influence our analysis of who is on the left and who is on the top. This leads to 4 different possible outcomes for prisoner A and B. If A and B both remain silent, they will each serve 1 year in prison. If A testifies against B but B remains silent, then A will be set free with 0 years in prison, while B serves 3 years in prison. If A remains silent but B testifies against A will serve 3 years in prison and B will be set free. If A and B testify against each other, they will each serve 2 years. Now, why is it called a dilemma? Because the setting of the game is that two prisoners are separated into individual rooms and cannot communicate with each other. It is assumed that both prisoners understand the nature of the game, have no loyalty to each other, and will have no opportunity for retribution or reward outside of the game. Then, regardless of what the other decides, each prisoner gets a higher reward by betraying the other or testifying. The reasoning involves analyzing both players' best responses. B will either be silent or testifies. If B is silent, A should testify because going free is better than serving 1 year. If B testifies, A should also testify because serving 2 years is better than serving 3 years. So either way, A should testify since testifying is A's best response regardless of B's strategy. Parallel reasoning will show that B should testify. Testifying always results in a better payoff than being silent, so it is a strictly dominant strategy for both players. Mutual testifying is the only strong Nash equilibrium in the game, since the collectively ideal result of being silent together is irrational from a self-interested point. This Nash equilibrium is not Pareto efficient. The most efficient one is being silent together, but it cannot be achieved under the setting of this game. The prisoner dilemma is not the most practical setting of a game, because in real life, the criminals may have loyalty to one another, and there might be reward outside of the game. Therefore, strategies that achieve Pareto efficiency may be adopted in a different setting of the game. And in the business world, the outcome or payoff is probably not how many years served in prison, but instead economic profit or loss in dollars. But this is the most classic example. Here's an overview of games and strategic thinking. Game theory is a general framework to aid decision-making when agents' payoffs depend on the actions taken by other players. And as we refer to games, there are players and rules. Players or agents in our context usually refer to firm managers. And the planned actions or decisions of players are called strategies. Payoff of players profit or loss under different strategy scenarios of the player and its rival is specified or expected. There's a description of the order of player. Like, do they move simultaneously or sequentially? Simultaneous move game refers to a game in which each player makes decisions without the knowledge of the other player's decisions. Example will be scissors, rock, paper. In the economics world, there is a Bertrand duopoly game in defining price. Two rival firms determine their own prices simultaneously. Sequential move game refers to a game in which one player makes a move after observing the other player's move. Examples would be playing chess or tic-tac-toe. There are many situations in the economic world where firms play sequential move games, and we will discuss more later. Lastly, the game specifies the frequency of interactions in games. Is this a one-shot game, or is it a repeated game? If it is a repeated game, how many rounds? Is it a limited or unlimited stage? Do the players know how many stages they're going to interact with one another? Now, let's look at the simplest setting of games: simultaneous move, one-shot games. There are several terms constantly used in game theory. The first one is strategy. Again, it is a decision rule that describes the actions a player will take at each decision point. Second, the whole description of the game is in a matrix format, is called normal form game. It is representation of a game indicating the players, their possible strategies, and payoffs resulting from alternative strategies. If it is used in simultaneous move game, then it excludes each player from basing the decisions on that the other player does. We see this in the illustration of Prisoner's Dilemma. Here's another example. The number here is good payoff. It means the bigger the better. For example, economic profit. Not like the prisoner's dilemma, the number means years in prison. Without being notified otherwise, we can assume the higher payoff is associated with a better outcome. Now, again, we have two sets of players. For the simplicity of illustration, we assume it's duopoly. Two firms, two players. Player A is set on the left, player B is on top. It doesn't matter who's on top and who's on the left. And A has strategies specified on the left-hand side, up or down. B strategies are specified on top, left or right. And the first number refers to player A's possible payoffs from strategy down. Right here, negative 10 and 10. And the second number here refer to player B's possible payoffs from strategy of being right. Then 27 refers to being on left. Now let's look at different possible strategies of players. The first one is dominant strategy for each player. Dominant strategy refers to a strategy that results in the highest payoff to a player regardless of the opponent's action. When players are rational or care about the self-interest, the first instinct will be looking for what's the best for himself, regardless of what the other player does. In one-shot simultaneous move, dominant is the optimal strategy. However, dominant strategy may not exist in some games. Now let's look at A's strategy. If B chooses left, A will choose up because 10 is larger than negative 10. B chooses left, A will choose up because down will give him negative 10 and up is 10. Now, if B chooses right, A will still choose up because 15 is larger than 10. Therefore, up is A's dominant strategy. Regardless of B's choice, choosing up is the best for A. So up is dominant strategy for A. What about B? If A chooses up, B will choose left because 20 is larger than 8. 20 left is larger than 8, right. If A chooses down, B will choose right because 10 is larger than 7, right, 10, left, 7, whenever A chooses down. So B does not have a dominant strategy that guarantees him a higher payoff regardless of A's option. B's strategy changes with respect to A's action. What does B do? B resorts to the secure strategy. What's the meaning of a secure strategy? Secure strategy refers to a strategy that guarantees the highest payoff given the worst possible scenario. B thinks, since I don't have a dominant strategy that gets me a higher payoff regardless of A's action, then let me think about the better payoff, assuming the worst scenario. If B chooses left, the worst payoff would be 7 when A chooses down. If B chooses right, the worst payoff will be 8 when A chooses up, since 8 is larger than 7. Then right is player B's secure strategy, which guarantees at least an $8 of payoff. We learned that player A has a dominant strategy. Let's see if player A has a secure strategy. If A chooses up, the worst payoff will be 10 when player B chooses left, since 10 is smaller than 15. If A chooses down, the worst payoff will be negative 15 when player B chooses left, since negative 15 is smaller than 10. Then the secure strategy for A will be up, that guarantees at least a $10 of payoff if both A and B chooses their secure strategy. The final payoff will be 15 for A and 8 for B. The shortcomings of a secure strategy are we assume players are extremely risk aversive, and it does not consider the rival's optimal decision, which may prevent the firm from earning a higher payoff. What the manager needs to do instead is thinking of the best strategy after considering the rival's best strategy. There is an interdependence. The next strategy is called the Nash equilibrium strategy. Nash equilibrium is proposed by John Nash. You might have heard of him from the book or movie A Beautiful Mind. He won so many awards, including the Nobel Prize in Economics. In game theory, The Nash equilibrium is the most used solution concept for non-cooperative games. A Nash equilibrium is a situation where no player could gain by changing their own strategy, holding all other players' strategies fixed. To rephrase that, A cannot get a better payoff by simply changing her strategy when B is now changing his. And B cannot get a better payoff by only changing his strategy when A is now changing hers. In the context of our example, a Nash equilibrium results when player A plays up and player B plays left. There is no incentive for either one to change or deviate from the current decision. The Nash equilibrium outcome will be 10 for A and 20 for B. If A deviates from up to down when B does not change and hold on to left, A will be worse off from 10 to negative 10. A has no incentive to change. If player B deviates from left to right when A does not change and hold on to up, then player B will be worse off from 20 to 8, and player B has no incentive to change. You can test other combinations of choices that are not at Nash equilibrium. For example, the 15-8 combination. At this combination, A does not have incentive to change from up to down because she will be worse off from 15 to 10, holding B's right unchanged. But B has incentive to change from right to left so that he can be better off from 8 to 20, holding A's up unchanged. So 15-8 is not at Nash equilibrium. See if you can prove that the other two combinations are not at Nash equilibrium. Nash equilibrium strategy does not always guarantee the best payoff for everyone. Like we illustrated at the beginning of the videos in Prisoner's Dilemma. It is applied to Oligopoly's conclusion in agreeing on higher prices. For example, if United Airlines and American Airlines fly on a route that the two of them dominates, ideally, the two airlines collude and agree on both charging higher prices for the flight tickets on the route. Then each one will get a payoff of $10, but both have incentive to cheat to lower the price a little bit. Then the cheater will steal all consumers and get payoff of 50. So 50 here, 50 here, while the non-cheater holds on to high price, lose all consumers and bear economic loss of $10, negative 10, negative 10. Then after considering the other's incentive, no one wants to bear economic loss, and both will choose to cheat and charge low prices. Then the outcome is nobody earns any economic profit. Payoff is zero. So low price is Nash equilibrium because no one can do better by changing his strategy given the other strategy unchanged. Payoffs associated with the Nash equilibrium is inferior from the firm's viewpoint compared to both agreeing to charge a high price. So apparently 10-10 is better than 0-0. This is the application of prisoner's dilemma in the economics world. Here's another example, two firms' decisions in advertising. The optimal outcome will be if the two firms agree on don't advertise. Nobody advertise. Each one of them will get a payoff of $10, but both have incentive to cheat and advertise. So the cheater will get a higher payoff of 20. So here's a typo, it's supposed to be 20. And non-cheater will be ripped off. So the Nash equilibrium is when both firms advertise, each one gets a payoff of $4. In fact, collusion would not work for a one-shot game because the cheater won't be punished or bear any consequences. In some games, there may exist more than one Nash equilibrium. For example, both firm A and B produce outlets. They have two options, 120 volt and 90 volt outlets. There are two Nash equilibrium outcomes associated with the game. Both players choose 120 or both players choose 90. There are some methods to coordinate on one equilibrium. The first one is to permit player communication. The second one is government set standard. For some games, there's no Nash equilibrium. For example, managers desire workers to work hard, while workers enjoy leisure. They want to play. They want to slack. This is the outcome for payoff pairs. The interpretation is as follows. If the manager monitors while the workers work, the worker wins with 1. Workers wins with 1. And the manager loses with 1. The manager has spent time monitoring a worker who was already working. In this case, suppose the manager's payoff is -1 and the worker's payoff is 1. The payoffs are the same if the manager does not monitor and the worker shirks. The worker wins because he gets away with shirking. And the manager lost because the worker is shirking and he didn't know about it. In contrast, if the manager monitors while the worker shirks, the manager wins 1 and the workers get caught loses 1. Similarly, if the worker works and the manager does not monitor, the manager wins 1 and the worker loses 1. Those hypothetical numbers are consistent with the relative payoffs that are in real situations. Note that in this game there is no Nash equilibrium. Suppose the manager's strategy is to monitor the worker, then the worker's best strategy is to work. But if the worker's strategy is to work, then the manager will be better off if he changes the strategy to don't monitor. And if the manager's strategy is don't monitor, then the worker will be better off by switching to shirk. And if the worker's strategy is shirking, then the manager's strategy better be monitoring. Therefore, this paradox never ends. Then what should the manager do? They should randomize the monitor and make their actions unpredictable. This is called mixed or randomized strategy. The workers don't know when the manager is going to be there to check on them, so they better work diligently. Another example will be professors randomly checking attendance or giving pop quizzes to check on students whether they're paying attention or not. Here's an application of one-shot simultaneous game. The setting is the following. Suppose the management and labor union are bargaining over how much of a hundred profit to give the union. In real world, it can be much bigger than that, right? Could be 1,000, could be 1,000,000. But here we'll just use $100 for illustration. For simplicity of illustration, assume that this $100 can only be split into $50 of increment. There's no 49 and 51, etc. There's a 0, 50, or 100. The labor union wants all $100 from the firm, while the management wants to keep all $100 at the firm, and they initiate a bargaining. But the management and labor union only have one shot to reach an agreement. That's the setting of the game. The players simultaneously write the amount they desire on a piece of paper. The management can write the amount they want as 0, 50, or 100. The same is true for the labor union. They can also write the amount 0, 50, 100. If the amount the manager writes and the amount the labor union writes exceeds $100, then the bargaining ends in a stalemate because there only are $100. Let's suppose that the delays caused by the stalemate cost both union and management $1. If the summation of the amounts by the two of them equal or smaller than $100, the players get the amount they write down. There are three Nash equilibrium outcomes associated with this game. The first one is management choose 100 and union choose 0. And the second one is both choose 50. And third one is management chooses 0 and union chooses 100. So this diagonal represents three Nash equilibrium. Nobody has incentive to deviate from here. You can prove the other ones are not at Nash equilibrium. Now let's practice. Please pause and try. All right, this is the answer to the question. There are many Nash equilibria. Any amount the players ask for that sums to exactly 100 cents or $1 constitutes a Nash equilibrium, such as 1 cent and 99 cents, 2 cents and 98 cents, 3 cents 97, 4.96, so on and so forth. Alright, this is all I have for this video. I'll see you in the next one.